Centre for Women, Peace and Security is really needed to highlight the differential problems that women face in armed conflict. Women and men obviously both suffer in armed conflict, but their experiences are different. Men certainly get killed in greater numbers in armed conflicts than do women, but women suffer in many other ways. They suffer displacement, they suffer from losing their male relatives very often, and of course they suffer disproportionately from sexual violence in armed conflict. And the forms of sexual violence differ from conflict to conflict. There are some commonalities. So, for example, we see what's now called sexual slavery, the detention of women in particular places. So, for example, in Bosnia, in houses, in gymnasia, in schools, anywhere that was available where they had been captured, where they were then forced to carry out everyday women's tasks, cleaning, cooking, and so on for their captors, and then were raped repeatedly by those captors. In Syria, Iraq today, we see a very different pattern of sexual slavery, where women have been captured, for example, by ISIS or Daesh, where they have been sold in sort of classic slave situations, and then sold again very often, subjected to forced marriages, and treated in other ways relating to sexual violence. So we see multiple patterns of different forms of sexual violence.
There has been a historical erasure of women's experiences and women's needs in conflict and post-conflict societies. In the year 2000, when the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 was established, this was a really symbolic, important historical moment for recognizing that women's and men's needs in wartime are not the same, and that we need to make sure that we include women in all the processes that are available to address the needs of those suffering. As some people know, there has been a great deal of advocacy by women's organizations and women's groups and civil society organizations, some politicians, basically spokespersons for women's human rights and for gender equality, who have been identifying over a very long period of time the differential impacts of conflict on women.
What is needed is for women's experiences to be taken into account in decision making, in policy making, in legal reform, so that when responses to armed conflict are being worked upon, looking towards sustainable peace, the experiences of women are taken into account, as well as the experiences of men.
LSE Centre for Women, Peace and Security provides a unique platform for scholars, practitioners, policymakers, students and activists to promote human rights, justice and participation for women in conflict-affected situations around the world. The Centre serves as an example in providing new ideas and taking the initiative to introduce rigorous academic understanding needed to tackle complex human rights issues and global issues related to enhancing women's social, political, and economic participation.
Women, Peace and Security started as a movement and culminated in the form of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 in 2000, and of course then the follow-up resolutions. WPS, Women, Peace and Security Centre, London School of Economics, from my point of view, institutionalizes not only that movement, but the resolutions and the peace-building work that women practitioners are doing on ground. Women, Peace and Security Centre, LSE, is crucial because it makes it very clear through its policy papers, through its blogs, through its working papers, and through its research, why women, peace and security is important in a world which is of course affected by and which is grappling with multiple forms of conflict, crisis and violent extremism. Why women, peace and security is the need of the time.
It's a wonderful combination of academic thinking with practitioners and activists in order to deconstruct and better understand what is women, peace and security. And in so doing, what they're doing is pulling up the information from grassroots women's organising in countries of conflict, in countries where prevention is of optimal importance, in countries which are post-conflict, to understand better what it is that experience of women, and to translate that, looking through human rights lenses, looking through social policy lenses, into a framework that could be applied to make fundamental difference in those situations.
I think one of the most important things that an academic institution, and our academic institution in particular, can do is to ensure that I think some key themes or key sort of umbrella terms are kept in the frame, and those are gender equality and women's human rights.
Part of what the Centre's aim is to ensure that those fundamentals of women, peace and security are kept to the forefront and are relevant in shaping the agenda. So the Centre acts on a number of different fronts. It's an academic centre, so inevitably education, training, capacity building are all very important parts of the Centre's work. We have a unique and I think genuinely visionary educational programme which includes the MSc on Women, Peace and Security, and also education programmes which are designed for professionals, mid-career professionals working in the field on different aspects of women, peace and security. Those programmes we have both run here in London, but also are working on taking them to places outside London.
The Centre promotes and conducts cutting-edge research on issues to do with women in conflict and post-conflict zones.
We can together work on developing a research capacity that is both relevant to the particular local context and also how researchers in one conflict-affected situation can help and learn and understand from those in other research areas. So essentially creating a network of research programs. The importance of understanding and listening to the voices of those who are involved in conflict-affected areas is also an important part of our Activists in Residence programme, where human rights defenders, those on the front line in conflict-affected areas, are able to come to London to continue their own work and to meet others who are involved in similar work elsewhere.
We have a range of people coming to the Centre speaking about these issues, from those in the military to those in governments around the world, and also, really importantly, to those who are either living in conflict or post-conflict zones and who have survived the consequences of war. And so we're able to really represent a lot of unique perspectives.
I think that one of the big problems in social science and in the academy is that the academy is maybe far away of the people. But I think that one place like the Centre for Women, Peace and Security at the LSE is trying to get closer relationship between these people and people who is thinking about them, and that's great.
I feel that Women, Peace and Security Centre is extremely important at this stage, where it can act as a bridge between the policy makers and the peace builders who are working there on the ground. And through the Women, Peace and Security, the work of the of the practitioners, the peace builders, can be actually taken into the policy, into action and policy advocacy, and people would understand and they can make actually informed policy.
This is a kind of triangle where you have the academy, the community, people from the government, and people doing their own work, but in a close relationship.
It is most important not only to raise awareness, but to also broaden the discussion between local and global policymakers in order to advance and enhance the rights of women.
Bringing together the different disciplines, the different ways of thinking, the different institutions which are important to policy making is what this institution, what the WPS unit is actually attempting to do, and I think is making groundbreaking strides in doing so.
this is giving me a chance to learn from the experience of an academic, to learn from the experience of a person who is well known internationally in this arena, and I'm thankful to WPS and LSE.
I imagine that I can come back to the center in the future, and I can speak with these people that I have met here, but also with other people who is doing the same work that I do. And if it is possible, we are going to do a better work in our countries.
I think, with good backing, the centre could achieve a huge amount. Because if you think, what women have been talking about all this time is, will somebody listen to us and actually will law, will policy reflect what it is we're saying? Because then you'll get towards the Women, Peace and Security agenda, what the Women, Peace and Security agenda was supposed to be delivering on. This centre could be, or is at least part of that rollout. It's a part of a response. It could be one of those drivers of change that we have been looking for because of that unique combination of the grassroots, the academic, through the disciplines of law, economics and others, into making that change possible. And I think it does make already to a certain extent, huge difference on the way, on the ground, and I think that will filter up through the institutions over time, but with the right political and economic backing that the centre needs.